Hello, everyone. Today I'm going to do a fairly long four-part opinion piece. Now, this is something that has been on my mind for a fairly long time, and it's part of a much longer essay that I wrote but never published, whose genesis was a small opinion that I tacked on to the end of the OFTD Key Rums review back in November 2023, but it got too long and I removed it. This, in turn, was based on my observations and thoughts over the last 10 years or so, and it's been percolating in my mind all this time because the subject keeps cropping up, as well as questions by new entrants into the rum world who don't know the story. And although the rhetoric has died down quite a bit of late, the underlying issues behind it really haven't. The situation is sleeping. It's not dead. To state it succinctly, Planteray, still sometimes referred to as Plantation, its previous name, or Maison Ferrand, its parent company, it's a love or hate proposition. There's no indifference, no reflective center where the opposing sides can meet, no middle ground. Anytime you start mentioning the company or its rums in a public space, a position is taken. It will be taken, and it must be taken. And then inevitably, you will be drawn into an online fight that stands for one side or another. You either like their rums, or despise the outfit, or dislike both. Few that I know have the courage to say that they like both. Fewer still accept that anyone else can. And if you need to ask why, well, then you're not as much into rums as you think you are. In all my time of writing about rums and the personalities and companies that are involved, I have never seen anything near this level of despite. And I go way back to the days of the original Ministry of Rum Forum, where Captain Jimbo was always doing his shtick back in the day and pissing everybody off. I think this ongoing brouhaha hurts the category of rum more than anything else. The more so, since it is clearly egged on by agendas which are not always clear to all and sundry. And all this incendiary back and forth over the last 10 years has not changed the facts on the ground one iota. And frankly, I doubt it ever will. All right, background. So let's rewind a bit and let me give you a précis. Founded in 2003 as a branch of Maison Ferrand, the cognac maker, Planteray, which was called Plantation back then, had a decent enough reputation until about 2015 or so. They made good low-rent efforts like the White 3-Star and the Original Dark, which then later became the OFTD, and they were starting to be an independent bottler of some note. They were putting out the same kind of Barbadian or Grenadian or Guyanese or Jamaican rums as others were, and I actually wrote some reviews of those early releases. Now, their labels did leave something to be desired, but this was not unusual for the time. And if eyebrows were raised about the whole business of secondary maturation or finishes, though they were following a practice which was not entirely new, it was mostly because, rather than exception, Plantation made it a rule for pretty much all their products. But we could live with that. Now, starting around 2015 and going on for the next years, however, four things occurred that changed the face of the rum landscape generally and impacted Plantation quite significantly. For one thing, there was the undisclosed sugar controversy, which implicated scores of distillers around the world and several independent bottlers and brands, including Plantation. Of course, this was the hydrometer test and the Scandinavian liquor monopolies that started to do serious tests and publishing them. And this created a huge uptick of interest as to whether any rums were adulterated or not, especially since we had been told for many, many years, oh no, we haven't been doing that. So that was a thing. The purchase of Word in Barbados in 2017, after bailout attempts went nowhere and other commercial enterprises declined to buy it, then Maison Ferrand bought it. And then, of course, there were the subsequent battles over the Barbados and Jamaican Geographical Indicators, or GIs, which by now has entered the rum zeitgeist. And everybody more or less knows about that. And of course, the eruption over the indignation over the name Plantation that was predated but lent strength by the Black Lives Matter movement, which to my mind was a complete and total PR balls up by Maison Ferrand. And that finally evoked a promise to change the company name to a less offensive one in a culturally charged world. And then we waited for years only to get the completely unoriginal name of Planteray in January 2024. I mean, you just got to ask yourself what these guys were thinking, right? Okay, those were the highlights that created some of the issues and dislike for the company. But there's more. And other issues raise their heads over time deriving from these. The commentariat in more than one country considered their business practices unethical at best, dating right back to the acquisition of the Ferran family name and the ousting of the original owners of the original cognac company, that is the corporate umbrella. There is the reported, reputed, and purported strong arming of retail establishments to stock their products at the expense of others, which is the old Bacardi distribution model. You get to stock our rums, but if you do, you can't stock those from over there if you stock mine. That kind of thing. They have been accused of misleading the public on their blends and in their various press releases to the extent that it has become, and I swear this is true, an article of faith that they flat out lie with every breath, whether or not they do or do not. This is actually a thing now, and that has led to a microscopic examination of their every utterance, every promotion, every ad, every release. And it probably goes a long way to explaining why Mr. Gabriel, the owner of the brand, does not engage in public any longer. He'd probably get his ass handed to him if he tries. Now, those with long memories would also recall Mr. Gabriel's somewhat tone-deaf comments that casually invalidated centuries of Caribbean rum-making tradition by baldly stating how he was there to save Barbados rum and how rum should be made more like cognac, dating back from the early days and years of his public engagement. But more than anything else, to get back to this one point, calumny has been hurled in their direction for their intransigent stance on weakening the Barbadian and Jamaican geographical indicator, the GI proposals, for the stubborn insistence on secondary aging of Caribbean rums in France and using all sorts of experimental techniques and calling them traditional when they were likely not, while somehow still touting the majesty and the originality of the terroir they were supposedly representing. And, well, that strikes a lot of people as being not just discourteous and disrespectful comments by a Johnny-come-lately foreign interloper of rums made for centuries in the Caribbean, and they think it's complete and utter bullshit. And that is everyone. Consumers, producers, commentators, everyone has a stake and an opinion in this and talks about it quite a bit. Okay, so impact now. So stoked by all these online netizens on social media and all their like-minded supporters who use personal attacks, constant criticism, and vicious trolling on social media, this has resulted in what, to my mind, is an appalling split in the online community. The frenzied denunciations of this one company have taken on a life of their own. They are brought up at every opportunity, sometimes with the flimsiest of connections, and in so doing, tar everyone associated with the brand for or against. Shop owner, barman, blogger, consumer, writer, influencer, everyone. Liquor store owners have been known to downplay that they even stock the company's rums. Writers withhold their reviews. Consumers hardly dare mention that they enjoy the brand's bottlings for fear of the inevitable backlash. The only exceptions, to my mind, are the young blood and the new reviewers who don't know the story and don't have any skin in the game. It has become so intense that it is no longer possible to have a rational discussion with anyone on this subject. I mean, in one particularly egregious example, a local Word employee who copped a prize of excellence in rum making a few years ago was not congratulated for his achievement, as you would expect, but no. He was told that he and all other employees should quit in moral outrage at working for such a company. It's gotten that fucking stupid. The anger and associated hate that this thing has started has driven more people away from engaging thoughtfully in public than even the dosage issue from 2014 or so. And trust me, I was there, and that was no picnic. If you were to listen to all those who without fail berate, bully, belittle, and correct every single statement and every single action taken by Plantation or any commentator on, let alone defender of the company, well, you'd be forgiven for concluding that this one outfit is Voldemort personified without the redeeming qualities. No, really, it is. It's like it no longer matters what they do. They could shit diamonds from a platinum backside, donate the entire proceeds therefrom to the eradication of poverty and climate change simultaneously, and still they would be considered one step removed from the sweat of Satan's sulfur-ridden testicles. That's really where this has gotten. Okay, so that's the background, and I will continue with this in part 2.